Hello students, I am Kazim Naqvi from Center for Information Technology, Jamia Millia Islamia. In today's session, I shall be introducing you to spreadsheets. I'll explain you what spreadsheets are, and then we will look into its applications, and in the later part I'll try to demonstrate you the use of Excel, which is also a kind of spreadsheet in your day-to-day lives. So you will find that spreadsheet is a very important tool which you can put to use in your personal as well as official work, in all kinds of professional work which involves data. So let us see what spreadsheets are. So spreadsheet is an application software that is extensively used in managing tabular data. So if you can envision your data in a tabular shape, for example, if you can think of your data, if it can be organized in form of rows and columns, you can think that Excel can be used to manage it more effectively. So an application software which helps you in managing data which is tabular in nature, and it may contain any kind of values, it may contain numeric values, it may contain textual values, it may contain dates, etc. So all that kind of data can be very effectively managed. Now when I say effectively managed, so obviously while dealing with data, you need to perform some very frequent operations. For example, you may want to search data at times, you may want to sort data on different parameters, right? You may want to manipulate data, you may want to change the data, you may want to make numeric calculations, right? So in handling all these operations, Excel provides you, or a spreadsheet provides you, with very simple to use tools which can be very relevant and can make your life much easier, right? So we will be seeing how to make use of spreadsheets in doing such work. Excel is a popular example of spreadsheet application developed by Microsoft and is part of MS Office. MS Office, as you know, is a popular software from Microsoft. So it is bundled with few applications such as MS Word, MS PowerPoint, and MS Excel. There are other applications as well, but these three primary applications makes the core of MS Office, or even Office 365, which they have started calling it these days. Similar applications have been bundled with other free or open source software as well. For example, you can find a similar utility with WPS Office, which is available. You can download it without paying any amount for it, or you can use Open Office. So in all these applications, you will find a utility which is similar to MS Excel, or which they call as spreadsheet in their respective software. Even Apple also provides a similar facility which they call it as Numbers on their operating system, even though you can use MS Office on Apple machines these days as well. But Numbers is a program which is equivalent to MS Excel and available from Apple to be used on iOS platform. Now Google these days is also providing a similar facility as part of their bundle of applications which you get access to when you create Gmail account, and that facility which Google is providing is referred to as Google Sheets. So in all these software, be it MS Excel, be it Google Sheets, or be it Numbers, or be it other spreadsheet software, you would see that the functionality remains same, right? They all are able to handle the tabular data. And the way I am going to demonstrate you how to use MS Excel, so probably you would be able to make use of the similar facilities offered by other software, to do the same job. So applications of spreadsheets are, as I said, that it can be effectively used in handling any kind of tabular data. So normally in offices, even in libraries, you would find that MS Excel is being used. You can use Excel, for example, to calculate your income tax. You can use Excel to maybe say give accession numbers to the books which you have maybe procured in the library, or maybe anything which involves data, right? If you are able to organize your data in, as I said, in a tabular form, you can find you can find that Access can be a potential tool for handling that. Now in particular, the operations which we are particularly interested in are sorting on multiple columns, for example, filtering of data, conditional formatting, finding and eliminating duplicates, data analysis, visualization, and graphical representation. So all these operations are very common, and they are applicable to all kinds and categories of data which we deal with in our day-to-day lives. Even you can think of such applications in personal work. You can think of similar applications in your professional work as well. When I say professional, again, Excel is used across domains. It is not that it is only applicable for students, right? It can be used in banking sector, it can be used in financial sectors, right? It can be used in a university, it could be used in n number of disciplines. You just have to satisfy one prerequisite, and you should have one requirement, that you have a tabular data and you want to work with it efficiently. Now, due to their excellent database management capabilities, Excel is widely used across all domains, industries for data related work such as preparation of budgets, payroll, examination results, inventory management, etc. Now, this slide, gives you a brief, gives you an interface, the user interface of what spreadsheet looks like. Now, this spreadsheet I have opened in Excel, right? But if you open up in, say, WPS Office, or maybe Google Spreadsheets or Google Sheets, you would find a similar kind of interface. As far as the major part, which is occupying the major screen, you can see a grid which consists of columns and rows. All columns have been numbered with A, B, C, D, and E, as you can see in this picture. Rows have been numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, and you may go as long as you wish to. Now, if in this figure you can see that there is an orange cell which I have filled with color orange, and this is called a cell. Now, cell is formed by virtue of intersection of a column and row. So, if column C, in this case column C is intersecting with column 8, so this gives me a cell which I would refer to as C8, because it is available at the intersection of column C with row 8. Similarly, if I click on, say, the first cell in this sheet, it is a result of intersection of column A with row 1. So, I would refer to it as A1. So, cells are going to hold the contents which you want to store in your spreadsheet. It can hold any kind of data value. For example, you may want to store names of your students in the class. So, each name can be typed in a cell. It can hold any kind of value. It can hold text value. For example, name is a text value. If you want to, say, store date of birth of student, that can also be stored in a cell. If you want to store, say, the marks obtained by a student, that can also be stored in cells. So, they can store values of all kinds in. Now, similarly, so every cell in a spreadsheet would have an address. An address can be found by finding out the intersection, which column is intersecting with which row. As I gave you these examples, C8 is a result of intersection of column C with row 8. A1 is an intersection of column A with row 1. Now, similarly, you can think of a range as well. As you can see in this picture, you have certain number of boxes which are continuous in nature. So, one cell followed by another. So, in case if I am making multiple selections of cell, I call it as a range. For example, in this case, range is starting from E5 and it is going up to E14. So, a range contains multiple cells. So, we will have a look at all these things practically as well when I demonstrate you these concepts. Now, before proceeding further, a couple of more terminologies which you should know. The first one is worksheet. So, every spreadsheet when you open and spreadsheet is something which will hold the data, and spreadsheet consists of rows and columns, right. So, these are the basic elements which are going to hold your data. Now, in a file, in an Excel file or a spreadsheet file which you created, you can have multiple spreadsheets. Why multiple? Because you may want to divide your data according to its purpose. For example, first sheet maybe for me could be the names of my students or the data about my students. The second sheet could be about something else. For example, I am teaching courses, so I may want to store details about my timetable, etc. So that can be stored in the second sheet. Third sheet could be of my personal work. I can store my data such as payroll or my income tax related information. So I can devote each sheet to a different purpose. And still all these sheets can be combined together in a form which we refer to as spread book or workbook, right? So a spreadsheet, when I create, so a file gets created. Whenever I open a spreadsheet, a file is created. Now that file essentially is a workbook, and that workbook would contain multiple spreadsheets. And as I showed you earlier, each spreadsheet would have a cell. Cell is nothing but intersection of row and a column, and intersection of row and column would give address to a cell, right? So as I said earlier, C8 is intersection of column C with row 8. Similarly, I talked about range as well. I demonstrated you what range is. So range is nothing but range is a collection of 2 or more cells. So if I start grouping cells together for some purpose, as you would come to know, shortly, I start calling it as range. Now, there are a couple of more terms which you should be familiar with. The first one is formulae. Now, in Excel, as I said, that it is very good for crunching numbers. Whenever you want to apply operations on numbers, for example, you have thousands of numbers and you just want to find out their sum, or you may want to change them in some other way. So for that matter, we have two things in spreadsheets, right? One is the function, the other one is the formulae. The formulae is something which I can type in myself. For example, I may want to have sum of 2 cells. So I would type in a formula, cell this plus cell that, right? So this becomes a formula. And then there is a function. So function is something which is already built into the spreadsheet. I just need to remember the name, and as soon as I call that function will return me the value. It would serve the purpose for which it has been developed. And you would see that all spreadsheet software are offering hundreds of functions for doing different kinds of things. You have functions related to text operations, you have functions related to numerical operations, you have functions related to statistical operations. So for everything, you don't need to invent things from scratch. You have built-in things already. For example, how to calculate average, right? I don't need to think about it, that I need to calculate the sum and then I need to divide by the total number of values. There is a function already, right? So you can call that function and provide the values, and it would just return you the value. So they help us in making our job easier. So formula is something which I would be writing. It would be an expression which I would be writing, as you might have been doing in your basic algebra or something like that. Right, when you were in schools. So you used to type equations such as x plus y plus z. So you can find out what the value is. So similarly, we will be writing those expressions in Excel or spreadsheet software, and they would be able to return you the values. So again, this slide is showing for example, the first figure here shows that cell C3 has been clicked because it is at the intersection of column C with 3. Similarly, in the next pick, you have a range selected from C1 to C5. If I have selected range of cells, so we use a colon to separate the starting and the end part of the range. So C1 is the starting cell and it is ending at C5. It is at the intersection of column C with row 5. So I will depict this range by typing in C1 colon C5. Similarly, you have A3 colon E3. So A3 is here and E3 is there, right? So these highlighted portion is referring to the range A3 to E3. Similarly, you have a block selected here. So the first range, so the first cell is B2 and the last cell is C4. A block has been selected. So all these are examples of cell selection and range selection. So let us now see how Excel works practically. And for that matter, I am going to open my Excel sheet software for you. So you can see an Excel sheet now, right, on your screens. And I'm going to demonstrate you the concepts which I have listed here: entering values and formulae in the cell, pattern generation, sorting of data, filtering data, using conditions, using simple formulae such as sum, max, min, average, and count, and summarizing of data sheets using pivot tables and using charts. So you can see that I have already prepared a sheet for you, right? In this sheet you can see that certain values have been typed, and you have columns. Serial number is there, name of the student, marks in maths, marks in physics, marks in chemistry, marks in English, and marks in biology. So I am presuming that I am a teacher and I am managing marks of my students in different subjects, right? And at the end of the day, I want to find out if they have passed or not passed the examination. So you have column for marks obtained. So because I can imagine this data to be arranged in rectangular or a tabular form, so I have used Excel or spreadsheet here. You can see that I have typed in the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in these cells. Now let us see where the address is. I have clicked on cell which is at the intersection of column D and say row 3. So if you click here D3, so you can see here on the left side the address is being shown. If I click somewhere here, the address changes to D9. So this part keeps on telling you where you are actually, and this is the cell address, right? If I want to select a range, so this is the range which has been selected. So to select range, you need to press the mouse and hold the shift key and drag your mouse over the cells which you want to select. So this results in selection of range. So let us see how can you create this kind of Excel sheet yourself. So the next thing which I am going to do is I am going to recreate this Excel sheet and demonstrate to you how to create such Excel sheets and how to manage and how to analyze the data which I am typing. Now before moving further, you can see that at the bottom of the screen there is a label called sheet 1. So that means I am working with a spreadsheet. If you recall, just a few moments back I introduced you to a spreadbook as well. So this is spreadsheet and this is the workbook, right? So workbook consists of multiple spreadsheets. So if I click plus, it would open up another sheet for me. Now this sheet can be renamed by right clicking on the name and typing in maybe a sensible name. So I say it demonstration, right? So this is my original sheet. So this is what you would ultimately be able to do, and here we would do what you are seeing on the first sheet, right? So I have two sheets and this is what the workbook looks like. So it comprises of various spreadsheets. So now I have two spreadsheets, worksheet 1, sorry, and the second worksheet is demonstration. So to create a worksheet such as this, you need to start typing in the values. For example, serial number was the first column, then name of the student was the second column. So you are typing normally, right? And as you type, you can move to and forth between the cells by pressing on the tab key, or you can press the shift tab key to come back, or you can also use arrow keys to move around in the Excel in the spreadsheet. You can double click on this border to adjust the cell so that it automatically occupies appropriate width, and then here you can type in the other values. So I would just copy or type maths to indicate marks in maths, then say English, physics, chemistry, and then say biology. So this is my plan, right? Before you create a spreadsheet, you need to have a plan in which you want to organize your data. So my plan is that I would have serial number in the first column, name of the student in the second column, maths marks, then marks of English, physics, chemistry, and biology. Now if you see that I have made a spelling mistake here in chemistry, right? And so to edit this cell, I can either double click on it, so it would come in editing mode. For example, I have double clicked on it and I can now make correction. Or the second possibility could have been that I can go to this formula bar and can make corrections here, right? So you can do this cell editing in two ways. One is by double clicking on the cell, and number two is that you can go to the formula bar while you have clicked on the cell you want to edit, and there you can perform corrections straight away. And then here you should have the column for total marks obtained, and then somewhere here I want to have say the percentage, or maybe result. So this is the plan, right? Now once I have created the top row, I know what the purpose of each column is. Even if I had not created this first row, right, my columns anyway would have names A, B, C, D. Now in this case I have given another name for column A, which is serial number, which which would be useful for me. Name of the student for column B, maths for column C, because this depicts the logical purpose of this column here. Now once I have finished entering this plan, I can start entering my data, right? 1, 2, 3. Now one of the good facilities in Excel is that it automatically identifies the patterns. So in this case you have entered 3 numbers, for example, and you can see that numbers are 1, 2 and 3. So can you guess what the next number is? Obviously it is 4. So in order to avoid typing these things again and again, you can simply click on couple of cells at least, so that Excel senses the pattern, and then take your mouse to this bottom point, bottom square, black square, which you are should be able to see. And once your mouse changes to this crosshair, you can drag it and maybe bring it to maybe 19, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all these numbers have been generated. I can take it to 20, or I can rather type in 20. Now suppose my students are student 1, student 2. Now what if I because now this time the data is not numeric, right? I have entered certain text, A, B, C, D characters have been used here. So the data become textual, right? I don't want to perform numeric operations on this data. So such data on which numeric operations are not to be performed is textual. So you can now drag it, and can you see that Excel is sensing the pattern? It has sensed this pattern as well. So you have student 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously these are dummy names. You can always type in the correct names. Now once done, here you have marks. So marks can also be entered in the similar way, but to avoid entering marks again and again, and which will waste time here. So what I do is I want to make a copy of this data, right? So let us copy this data. So I am holding shift key on my keyboard and pressing right and down arrow keys, right? So once this is done, I can copy this and I can bring in my data, right? And so this data has actually come here. I just wanted to have the values. So here you have a paste special, right? If you must have noticed that when I pasted the data here, everything was fetched from the previous thing as it is, right? So it contains lots of formatting, lots of conditions as well. So everything has been pasted. It is not merely the data, but I want to show you how this was actually done. So I am only interested in bringing the values. So if you want to selectively copy and paste, now this is something which is new to spreadsheets, right? So because Excel copy and paste is not merely copying of values, it is copying of formulas as well, it is copying of formatting details as well, in addition to the data. So if you are selectively pasting it, so you can always go to the paste function and you can from here select what do you want to copy. You want to copy everything, or you want to copy only the formulae, or the values, or the formats, or the comments and notes. So in this case I only want to copy the values. So if I copy the values, you can see that the values are in front of you and nothing in addition has been taken from the previous slide. So now the position of my sheet is that there are 20 students who are studying in different subjects: maths, English, physics, chemistry and biology, and all of them have been given certain marks from their teachers, and I have entered them into a tabular space, right? Now obviously you may want to do certain operations on it now. Now again, if I go back to my first sheet, you can see that I have highlighted for example 89 here, 89. So this is something in green color. It is showing who the highest marks holder is, and in red color people who are maybe on the lower side of it. So you may want to identify such data. That data would give you immediate insight into what is happening in your class. who is good in what subject, right? So normally this data is not speaking, right? But in case if you go to the first slide, this data starts speaking, because if you focus on green colors, I immediately know that student 16 has secured 100 marks in physics, right? So he is good in physics. Student 17 has stored 98 marks in chemistry. He is good in chemistry. Now student 7 has only stored 2 marks in maths. So I know that something is wrong here. So we need to do something, right? So such kind of tagging of data could be useful. So this can be, how can you do this? To do this, what you can do is select all this data, right, and go to conditional formatting, right? In conditional formatting, you can create rules, or maybe you can highlight colors. Top bottom rule is there. Let me demonstrate to you how to select, say, top 10 items. So if I click top 10, right, so it immediately is selecting top 10. So if you see, if I say okay from here, so what do you see? 50, 55, 89, 88. So these are the top 10 people in terms of marks, in this sheet. Similarly, but I wanted to actually find out who the topper is. So first of all, let me clear the rule, and then again go to the top 10% or top 10 items, right? So if I say top 10, so in this case I am only interested in top 1 item, right? So once I do that, so you can see that 89 and 89 are being highlighted, right? So similarly, you can find out what the lowest value is by going to the conditional formatting. So in this sheet, I have done two kinds of formatting. One is for the lowest one, and again, if I want to select the lowest one, I would go to bottom, and in this case say bottom 10%. So instead of again bottom 10, I only want to find out bottom 3, and this time let me change the color so that I am able to distinguish. So the moment I am able to distinguish, so this is the bottom marks which have been given to the student number 19. So this way you can find out who the topper of the subject is, or who the lowest marks holder is, right? And then let us come to this formula part, right, which makes Excel or spreadsheet very popular. If for example here I want to find out the sum of these values, right? So in order to find out the sum of these values, I need to type in a formula, and to type in a formula, I need to first of all press on equal to sign or equal to key on the keyboard, right? The moment I type in equal to, Excel automatically senses that it's not a normal value. He is going to enter a formula. Now what the formula would be? The formula would be something that would tell Excel what to do. For example, in this case, I want to add up this value, right, 50. For example, after typing in equal to, I click on 50. So immediately you can see that this there is a border which is glowing, and it has typed in C2 in here. And what is C2? C2 is the address of the cell which is holding the value 50. Then I click on plus, and I can type in D2. Then I can again press plus E2 plus F2 plus G2, and then press enter. The moment I press enter, you have these marks available for you, 259. And because this is a formula which has been applied to these values, right, if I drag this now, right, so Excel would automatically sense that he wants to calculate a value here, but it senses the change that you have now shifted from H1 to H2 to H3. So it automatically would add up the value C3 with D3 with E3 with F3 and G3. So that way Excel is intelligent and sensing what changes are required. And so effectively what I have done, I have only applied formula at one cell, and based on that Excel automatically generated the pattern, and I am able to find out these values, right? So this is one way of doing it, the lengthy way of doing it, by typing in the formula. Because I know that there is a formula which can there is a function which can create this without typing me all these values. So the name of function should be known to you. So the function name is sum. So, sum is a kind of assistant which is now available. It would do some calculation. So, I am calling that assistant. The name is sum. And what am I supposed to tell sum? I am supposed to tell sum that sum all these values. So, what have I typed? Sum C2 colon G2. And as you would recall that C2 colon G2 is a range, right? Number of cells which have been addressed together. And then I would drag it. So, I can do the same thing using either a function or a formula. And then the last thing is if I want to create calculate result. So, suppose that if a student get less than say 200 marks, he would be declared fail. So, for that matter you have if condition. So, if these marks are less than 200, then the result is failed, otherwise the result is passed. And again, as you would imagine, I would drag it and the results have been calculated for you. So, in this session I hope you have learned about what spreadsheet is, what are its applications, and you have also seen use of spreadsheet in making basic a sheet, in using simple formula of sum. You can find out similar formulas. Formulae are also available for doing n number of calculations in Excel, and I hope that you found it useful and you would be able to make use of it in your daily lives. Thank you very much.